our regular Wednesday where we talk about special topic. This week it's really International Women's Day, and if it's International Women's Day, we need to give as many opportunity to women to speak up and talk about their struggle, about their success. And it's amazing that we have three successful women startup founder with us. Ola Fayed, who is from Jordan and also is active in multiple countries. Ryan Dahab from Bamboo Geeks, Ola Fayed from VAV, and Zoha Slim from Instadeep, who has really a lot of impact in multiple countries. So International Women's Day means a lot of things for a lot of women around the world, and with COVID, we see bigger impact on women than men. So let's start. If we can go around and then just give us like a quick, sort of like 1 minute introduction about yourself, who you are. Let's go with Rora. Go ahead.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rola Fayyad. I'm the founder of VAV. Basically, we're an AI-powered travel experiences platform. We believe there's a better way to travel, a way with purpose, while giving back to local communities. Hence, we've created our platform. We're based in Doha and in Amman. And of course, I would like to say, kudos to every female entrepreneur who's been in the journey like I have. Thank you.
Go ahead, Diane, Zaha.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Hello, everyone. My name is Rayan Al-Dhahab. I'm originally from Lebanon. I'm a software engineer. I'm the founder and CEO of Bamboo Geeks. We are a consultancy and training firm based in Dubai and in Egypt. And we aim to make the MENA region a tech talent hub for the world by providing training for tech talents on the latest technology methodologies with a main focus on the actual skills relevant to the market. I'm also a Google developer expert. I'm a Women Tech Maker ambassador and a GDG lead.
Thank you, Ayan. Zaha?
Hey, I'm Zahra. I'm from Tunisia. I'm self-taught in everything I know. I'm a designer, developer, coder, video maker, voiceover artist. If it can be done, I'm there. So I'm co-founder of Instadeep. Instadeep is a startup that's present in 6 countries worldwide with about 125 people worldwide now. And we work on artificial intelligence. So we offer solutions and we're working on our own products. So headquarters is in London, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, all of you. So Zohar, let's dive in. Like a few years back, and probably you and the co-founder thought about this startup. Can you tell us a little bit about like how you started the startup and maybe go a little bit deeper into the bias against being a woman and founding a startup in the first few years? Can you tell us more about this?
Sure. So basically, initially, I had actually started by myself. So before Instadeep happened, I was my own one-person company because I had freelance for like 6 years. And I was like, I have no social security, I have nothing, so I should probably get to it. I'm getting kind of old. So I founded my own company, which was a design and web dev studio. And my co-founder, Karim, was actually one of my first clients. And we worked on a couple of projects together. We liked working together. We found that it was kind of symbiotic. We bounced ideas off each other really well. And basically, Karim came to me one day and asked me if I wanted to open something with him. And I was like, at first, it was very confusing. This was in 2014. Like, there was no ecosystem here at all. So that's why I usually say that Instadeep is the first startup of Tunisia, because there really wasn't anyone else. So thankfully, my co-founder is super chill. So thankfully from that side, no issues, obviously. The issues came, I don't really think there was much bias. It was more of for a lot of people here and in the world, it's more of where we are. So I know that we did have some issues with the fact that the company was in Tunisia, for instance, where I could see like people's faces changing the second I said, the weather's great in Tunis. And people would just be like, you're aware. I think also because of the fact that I'm self-taught, there might have been some bias there because I don't have a university diploma. Not because I didn't want one, it's just because I got bored from La Sorbonne and just quit. Yeah, so thankfully there was always, in Tunisia, there's a bias. I have to say, I'm sorry guys, but there is. So whenever there's a paper to be signed, they send it with Karim Gir, and I'm like, no. In Tunisia, I'm the signer, I'm the signatory in Tunisia. I always keep sending them back, like, no, Zahra Slim. So, and also, sadly, sometimes, so it wasn't really something about how the company started, or, investors really liked me because I'm like very spontaneous and just say things as they come to my brain. But there is a lot of media bias, though. Like, there's a lot of articles where they put Karim Gir founder, and he emails them, he's like co-founder, and then they change it in the text, they don't change it in the title, he emails them again, and it's just, I'm like, hello, would you like to come join me here in my office in Tunis, and I'll get to know me? Seriously, I'm super chill. But that's the one where it kind of, I don't know, sometimes it's like, you're like, I'm here, like, for the love of God. It was never like a hidden thing that I was co-founder. It was always me and him. We started me and him, and to be completely removed from the narrative sometimes in the media, I'm just like, I did not stand in the CNSS for this to happen, because I manage Tunis, and Tunis is the biggest office. So sometimes I'm like, guys, hi, hello. Like, a woman can be co-founder of a company, but the idea is kind of changing. People are starting to get that. So thankfully, it's not as bad as some other countries, but there's still some work to be done, I think.
Thank you, Zahra, for sharing with us. And this is the realities. The reason we have you all three with us is to share that experiences. So the next woman who decide to create her own startup knows the challenges and know that, yes, there are challenges, but look, if Zahra, if Ryan, if Ola made it, it means I can make it as well. And yes, there are problems, and we need to highlight them so we can ensure that the next generation and the current generation understand what they're getting into and they are prepared, they're not surprised. With that, maybe Ryan, I know you had a lot of, I read and I saw some of your interviews about the bias because of your name, the bias in so many ways. Can you tell us a little bit more about this? Can you tell us a little bit how you started your startup, and then dive into some of the challenges that you have run into because of your woman?
So as a software engineer, when I first start looking for a job, I faced the same issues every new graduate or every new person who is entering the tech field faces, which is, you need experience to get experience. No one will invest in you. Companies expect you to come ready. And they will not have the patience to actually teach you what you will actually work on. And I was very, very, very tolerant, if I want to say, and I had the luxury to start my career when I was still at university. So I accepted to work completely for free for 7 months. I was working over 10 hours a day, and that was okay for me. I had the luxury to be able to do that. I know that other people may not be able to do it financially. And even then, when I was completely dedicated, just give me work, I'm ready to do anything, you will end up with data entry, testing, stuff like that doesn't really empower you to start your actual career. And every day I worked in that job, I kept telling myself, one day I'm gonna be in another position and I'm gonna make it different for the people who enter the market. And I kept promising myself that for over 7 years as a software engineer, as a programmer, until one day the company I was working at got acquired from the US. We were in Lebanon then. And then they decided to close the Lebanon office completely. And this is when I started to remember the promise I gave to myself. During that time, I was mentoring people at universities and telling them how exactly to prepare themselves to the actual work field before they graduate. So I decided, hey, I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna find another job, and I'm gonna take this leap of faith, and I'm gonna start Bamboo Geeks. That was 2016, and I started it with a main focus on coding bootcamps, on actually providing coding bootcamps for programmers. And we were actually able to train over 12 people who all were able to land a job or start their own companies back then. During my career, being named Rayan is usually a male and a female name. So I would send my resume and people would get so excited via emails about, you have an amazing profile, we've never seen someone who worked on so many different technologies, blah, blah, blah. And then when we get on the phone, they say, oh, can we talk to Rayan? And I'm like, yeah, but that's me. You called my number and I answered, that's me. I was like, no, Rayan, the programmer. Yeah, well, I'm Rayan, I'm the programmer, but it happens to be I'm a woman. And they would be like, oh no, sorry, there must be a confusion, we're looking for a guy. Even when I made it past the female thing and I reached the interview, the minute I hit the interview, I can see their faces go pale, because like in Lebanon, it's not very acceptable for companies and big companies to have a hijabi woman. And then the minute they see like me entering and they're like, what is Rayan? So they didn't expect to see this form. They didn't expect to see someone who looks like me. And they connect the hijabi with a specific stereotype of this woman who is not going out of her house, who is not educated, who is not open to the community, who is not tech. And they're like, who are you? I remember one interview, the CEO of the company joined the interview. And I was like still a very fresh person, like 2-3 years experience. So you don't expect the CEO to be there. And he literally said, I'm only here because they told me there was a female with that resume, and also she wears a hijab. I had to see it with my own eyes. And he continued by saying, hey, let me be clear with you. I have 2 daughters, they are the world to me. But you girls you are there to be spoiled, not to actually custat, not to actually like break your head with all the coding things. So why do you do that? This is not for you. And I'm like, hey, look, let's start the interview. I don't want the job here, but let me tell you, like, I'm a software engineer. I'm really good at what I do, and I've been successful, and you've seen my resume. I made you come to this interview, and I'm a female, just because you were interested about my profile, and we can do it. Apparently, this is not the culture for me. I don't want to work here, but I hope that in the future, you get to work with more female programmers. So with the bias against women first, and then with the bias against the hijabi woman where I was brought, I had this huge challenge to actually find a job when I moved to the capital, to Beirut, because no one would accept a hijabi woman as a programmer, even though like I'm not a marketing, I'm not a salesperson, I'm not gonna be in direct contact with the client. Why would you care? I'll be like in a room as a programmer, right? But still, that was a huge challenge. And it took me a while to start setting my mindset right and say, okay, this is not an obstacle. This is actually my firewall. And being a woman and being a hijabi person is my firewall to actually filter all the companies, all the people I don't want to work with. If they don't accept me as a woman, they don't accept me for who I am, then this is not good for me. This is not somewhere that I want to be there. So thank you for being honest and telling me ahead of time, instead of me joining you and finding out that the culture does not fit my value and does not embrace me as a woman programmer. And then once I changed my mindset, it was really easier for me to get all of those rejections due to being a woman or to being a hijabi person. Eventually, I did land a great job. I was working with Deltec, who provide solutions for Monster, and I was able to work with them for so many years. But then I remembered my promise, and I remembered that like going through all of those challenges, rather of the challenge of being a fresh person, of being a woman, of being not from the capital of the country where people flag you as less educated, of being a hijabi, I decided that, okay, I'm gonna train people, I'm gonna create a training program that will actually empower people to go and start their career, regardless of all these biases. And it was due to the actual communities that I was part in that I leveraged. Starting Bamboo Geeks in Lebanon in 2016 was a failure eventually. I had to close it and shut that door and find another job to survive financially, because it was literally impossible for me, a woman coming from North Lebanon, from Tripoli, a city tagged to be less, to actually get funded, to actually be accepted by universities, to actually send their students to our boot camp, to actually get into any of the incubators in Beirut. They will ask you like, who's the technical person? Well, that's me. No, I mean the actual programmer, who's the trainer, who wrote the actual curriculum of this. Well, that's me. And they never actually believed it. Maybe also because I had some good communication skills. They don't understand that you can talk and be good at talking, but at the same time be a good technical person. So once you see you talking well, they're like, you're definitely not a programmer. You have to be a geeky nerd who's unable to communicate. And they were never convinced. And literally after working for over a year, like spending every dime I made in the past 7 years on this, I decided that I need to close it. I need to find a job. I worked for the innovation lab in UNICEF. Then I moved to Dubai to work for McKinsey as a consultant. And there was another bias, also being like the hijabi person. Like I go into government entities as the digital consultant, as the system architect, and they will be like, where is Rayan? We're still waiting for the technical person. And I'm like, no, that's me. And they're like, no, they will be talking about code and stuff you don't understand. And I'm like, dude, that's me. That's like, look, this is my business card. I'm your system architect. I'm here to be your consultant. And it was so difficult for them to grasp that. And even for some project, like they would go and ask the partner on my project to get them a guy, because they are not really convinced that a woman can actually do the technical work. They would sometimes go and talk to my intern. Like I had one, sometimes I had 3-4 interns, and one of them was a guy. And he's my intern, like I'm the senior consultant. And whenever they want to talk to someone, they refer to him and they were like, oh, we will ask Wendy about that. We will ask him about that. And he will, yeah, and I'll ask my boss, Rayan. And they will never grasp this idea. And then after 2 years of seeing that this is the same thing happening wherever you go, in early 2020, I decided, hey, it's time to go back and try again with Bamboo Geeks, but this time try from Dubai and see how different it can be. And literally, I resigned from McKinsey, and then pandemic hit, like 1 month after I resigned, and they asked me to actually stay with them until everything resolves, because it was almost impossible to start the company. And I'm like, hey, I took the courage to leave. If I stay, I'm never leaving again. So no, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna restructure all my trainings, all my materials, and I'm gonna make it happen within the pandemic. I tell you, it was very difficult. Everything I had in terms of training was hands-on, depend on being there with my students, with my trainees. It's a coding bootcamp, it's interactive. We had to restructure every single thing we worked on for the past 3-4 years. And actually it worked. And now we are serving the entire MENA region. Luckily, because of the pandemic, everything went online and we were able to actually find bigger audience. Today we have over 800 trained in 1 year, or on employability, on agile methodologies, on design thinking. We have over 200 startups trained on design thinking, UX, agile applications. So despite all of those challenges, we were able to actually finally make it. It requires a lot of like setting your mindset right. Whenever you see something as an obstacle because you're a woman, you have to just sit with yourself and think about it and say, okay, so this hijab thing is being, let's say, an obstacle. How do I want to think about it? How do I want to feel about it? And sit with yourself and set your mindset and say, no, this is very important for me. I'm not letting go. I have the right to have my values, to wear whatever I want, and I have the right to be a successful tech person. There's no contradiction. From that day, I like in my career until now, I live to prove that there's no contradiction. I can be this religious person, yet this successful woman in technology. So my first advice would be that put your mindset right and know your own priority and be comfortable with that. Don't let anyone tell you what's okay and what's not.
Thank you, Ariane. I really appreciate sharing all of this information. And that's the reality. I heard the last 5 years since I moved here, many stories from our community where women go to an interview and they are directly asked, are you married? Are you going to have kids? Like, and I was
Are
like,
you planning to get married? Like, are you engaged or are you in a relationship? Like, they want to know the entire status of your relationship because they want to anticipate how much cost you're going to be for the company if you're going to take a maternity. Is it okay for you to actually work overtime? Like, I had so many times in my life, like, people look at me working overtime and saying, oh, is your husband okay with that? You don't want to go home? It's 8 p.m. And I'm like, is your wife okay with you being here? Am I asking you, is your wife okay with you being here? Don't ask me if my husband is okay. My husband is proud of me for what I do. So let's just keep it there. And like, they will always say, if it was my wife, I would never accept. Well, that's why I'm not married to you, right? I didn't ask for that opinion. And you hear this, like, even from people who lived in the, like, people who didn't only live in our region, who lived in the UK, who lived in the US, and you're so shocked. And because I look probably like their wives or like their moms or their sisters, I dress like them, they think they can actually project their feelings and how they will judge their own family on me. And that's the problem. And this is where it's a really, really challenge for us women to put the limit of where people can really like tell us what we can do and cannot do.
Thank you, Ayan. Zoha, what do you think about this? I know this is more of a conversation, and I know Ayan mentioned a lot of stories that all of you shared. So feel free to jump in. As I said, like I heard from
Yeah,
women.
no, I listen. I know for sure that they asked that question here. Like, are you planning to get married? Thankfully, no one asked it to me, so no one got yelled at. But I have some engineers who work with me who like thankfully I've always been like kind of my own boss, let's say. So so I didn't actually have to interview for jobs, which was great. But so I had to do a talk about, you know, the inequality, and I called some of the girls who work with me to kind of see their viewpoint, because I couldn't just go and say everything is rosy when I don't have all the information. And they told me that, and I was like, where is your old boss now? Because I want to go yell at him. It drove me nuts. And I think my face reflected the frustration when you were talking. I was just, I can't believe they're doing this. Like, how? It's horrible. It's just plain horrible. I have I have multiple people who wear hijabs, and when they send their CVs, they're always like, we don't know if there's a policy about hijabs. I'm like, I don't care. You can wear your hijab, that's fine. I don't. As long as you don't tell me to take off my tattoos, which I can't do, even if I wanted to, it's fine for me. Like, there's no reason for any of this. If someone's mind is right, like, what do I care if they wear a hijab? Actually, it's better to have someone, to have diversity in the team. I'd like to have one, you know, multiple people with hijab. I have guys who pray. I have guys who don't. I have people who drink. I have people who don't. I have Arabs. I have Europeans. I have people from SA. From like I have, we have an office in Nigeria. We have an office in South. Like, all that diversity can only be good. So I don't. I can't. It just drives me nuts.
Absolutely.
I can't help it.
So Ola, tell us a little bit about yourself, about how you start, and share with us some of your. I know you also like, you know, it's great story. So let you go and talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So I started in 2016 after failing, I would say, the first startup I created. The issue in the first startup, the reason I didn't, it's not about failing, it's I decided to leave, is because apparently, because I was a female, people would answer my emails and not the co-founder. Because I'm a female, people would actually listen to me or promise me more. If I kind of got fed up because I wear a skirt and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this today. I decided to leave it, throw everything. While we were committed with investors, I was like, I'm out. I took a break and I went with a few startups to see, you know, what's this ecosystem. And then I came up with Frencher, which is V today. Of course, Frencher previously was, I used to get so angry from the WhatsApp groups the friends create to travel or to go somewhere. You end up not doing anything, but you end up held hostage in that WhatsApp group for a millennium. So I was like, yeah, I can't talk to you guys and say good morning. So I wanted to do like a cool way where people could, plan things. It disappears like a Snapchat. And of course I went and I pitched it, and they're like, oh, so now do we need a female Mark Zuckerberg? I was like, yeah, but this is not a Facebook. I'm like, yeah, like, we're Middle Easterns, and you're not technical. You need to get like men technical team with you. You don't know code. So yeah, it's not gonna happen. And of course we went into that dilemma for very long. I did raise, thankfully, through an accelerator in Jordan, but of course we fell in the valley of death. They just wanted to see men. If there were no men developers, no CTO, no technical co-founder, definitely male. It's not something they want to invest in. It's not something they trust. We're not risk takers. Females are less, men will go do everything. So of course we went through that, but I was gladly, and I think this was the highlight of my whole, when I'm 60, hopefully retired, this is my story, is 3 years later, thankfully, in Doha, we were one of the winners of Supreme Committee's Challenge 22 for the World Cup. I was the only female, which was really awkward. But Randy Zuckerberg was there. So, everyone was like, careful, it's Randy. I was like, no, hell no, I'm going to go ask her. And I went to her and I said, everyone says I'm just another Facebook. I'm a female Mark Zuckerberg. And she's like, no, you're not. And we took a selfie and we quoted that and we sent it out to all of the investors and everyone who kept on whining about how I shouldn't be, a social sort of thing. But I think that aside, in the region, yeah, there is a lot happening. The hijab thing, I do agree with, right? Yes, I've seen that a lot. And we have a lot of, so I co-founded the Jordanian chapter of Girls in Tech. Our job was to mentor, train, bring out, engineers and everything. We trained 80 people, and unfortunately, I think only 2 managed to actually do something out of it, because a lot of cultural bias, a lot of religion bias, a lot of female-male bias. The big companies, they want male developers. The only reason they would take a female is because they have a KPI from their head office or a grant they have taken. And I will bluntly say this, I hope I don't get into trouble. There's a lot of money in developing countries and they want to see 60% female. So you see them there for 12 months and then poof, they're not there anymore. So I think this should definitely change. I will not say this about my technical team are all male. I wish I had females. When I get any resume, I'm clapping and saying, we're going to get a female developer. So then she can explain things to me, because they don't. They're never talking to me technical, but they're none. Like, they're none. I've checked the like RBK, which actually do the development. They're juniors, and you need a bit of seniors, and this really pisses me off. Like, why are they not advanced? The senior female CTOs getting paid as much as men with the high pays. Why are they juniors? Why are they not giving chances? Why are big companies bringing in and clicking that, we got female developers for a year? But this should definitely change. The world is changing. Everything is changing. And if this doesn't change, we're going to find the technical development teams definitely male dominant for good, especially in our region.
Thank you, Laura. Just my again, feel free to jump in. This is like an open conversation. At least when I look to the data that we have seen the last couple of years, if you look to all the university, example, Saudi Arabia, in Jordan, in Egypt, I can tell you that probably 70 to 80% of the computer science students are female, are women. If I look to Saudi Arabia, the top winners of any competition, most of the time are female and women developers. I think, but then what I have seen from the data, again, I have limited set of data, so you might have more data, is the transition from student and winners, team winners, hackathon winners, to the actual job, that dropped dramatically. And meaning, like, I know in Saudi Arabia, I know some other countries as well, is that there is a drop. And Is it because we don't have a lot of tech startup, tech companies? And then you see also difference based on the countries. Like, you know, in certain countries you see, no, even in the transition to the job, there is a transition to tech, or no, there's no tech engineering team, and therefore they have to transition to marketing, etc. So this is just something. What do you think? What would be your opinion?
Well, I'm gonna take this if I can. I hope you guys hear me okay. Like I said, my connection is not behaving today. I think that, listen, first there is a social side. So a lot of these engineers are kind of pushed to become actually teachers, professors. So they will keep on with their studies. And something that I've seen is when you get to a PhD level, I may be wrong. Again, I haven't worked with every single PhD in the world, but it becomes more of they start to have more of an educational focus and not so much like an engineering kind of everyday engineering sort of thing. So they will look for more teaching. Also, teaching is less crazy hours and a very stable sort of pay. But to come back to it, really, if, like my engineers told me, if someone goes to do 1 or 2 or 5 interviews with just guys who are just gonna treat them like badly, why would they keep up? They'll be like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna jump to something else that doesn't involve, you know, this sort of behavior. So that has to be taken into consideration as well. And obviously the whole social pressures from the family to get married and stay home and have kids and all that. That's, we are, Salim, as I said in one of my older talks, we're very much kind of a group mentality kind of culture. We don't like individuals. I still get sometimes people who call me from my family who are like, Zahra, there's a very handsome young man. He's awesome. And he has a pharmacy and a house and a villa. And I'm like, I have a startup. I don't need no one. And for them, it's shocking that I'm like, I don't need this. So there is a lot of social pressure to just get married, have kids, and stay home. So some people are fine with it. Some people just swim against the current.
I agree partially, and like the part where I totally agree with you is the fact that when we go to those interviews and you're so rejected, and then you were asked, would you mind taking off your hijab? Would you mind doing this? Would you mind doing that? You join the team, everyone is a guy who talks really bad words the entire day. You feel uncomfortable all the time within the team because they are swearing and saying bad words all the time. Why would you want to stay there? Like, right? You don't want to stay there. I can tell you, like, one time this happened where I was in a team where everyone was a guy. They were all from a specific country where they speak a specific language that I don't know. And I was the new joiner. And every single time we have a meeting, they will only speak in that specific language. And they will never speak in English. And I have to take specifications. I have to understand my tech lead to actually go and code my features. And I would never understand. And I asked them, can you please talk in English? Can you please talk in English? I don't understand. And they would say, but that's the fun part of it, is to make you mad and see you like getting so upset in the meetings because you don't understand. And they kept doing this to me for like 7 months. I'm very, very high tolerance, and I'm very resilient, and I'm like really strong. It really got into my nerves, and they kept asking me, go to the product owner team, go to the management team, go to the marketing team. Maybe this will fit you better. Like we want to keep this vibe where we can say whatever we want, act boyish in the team. Now you broke our culture. Now you broke the team's spirit when you came, because it became very different. So imagine if every woman is facing this. She will never stay for over than 2 years. That's one. Two, like, I understand that you're at a certain place, Rola, in your startup where you need senior people. But like, I think most startups are at the same level, so they would never be able to actually invest in those fresh tech, fresh women. right? And this is what happened, is when we have our own startup, we may want to actually take an additional effort to invest in those. Like for me, I have 10 employees, all of them are women. And I'm ready to work extra hard and train extra hard just because I want to enable them. And I don't mind working more and repeating their work sometimes, just because I want to say I really invested in them and I know no one else would take the effort. So maybe if we as women founders take the additional effort, the additional sacrifice to invest in those young people, in those fresh women, believe me, they like on the long run, those are the people who stay with you because you actually invested in them. You gave them the opportunity they couldn't find anywhere else. One more thing, we did a study to see the funnel and where we lose women in the tech industry. It's never at the beginning of the funnel. So it's never when they graduate from college. It's probably more than men graduate from college in tech industry in the region. But then when they enter the field, they are okay. Once they start to hit the mid-level and they want to transition to the senior level, this is when it coincides with the age of women that are like, this is where they get married, this is where they have kids, this is like, and this is where people actually leave the workforce and try to seek something that can accommodate their lifestyle. And this is not for women to blame. This is for companies to blame because they don't provide the needed support for women to be a woman and live her woman life and at the same time be at the workforce. So if I'm working 10 hours, I'm not given a good maternity leave, I'm not given all the rights, all the flexibility to be able to be a mom, like I need to have both and I have the right to have both. So this is when we start to lose them. They cannot make the transition because they are faced with an option. It's either your family or your job. When you can actually have both, but no one is supporting that.
So Ayan, I remember I was attending an event that was organized by women. It was the Arab Women in Computing, and it was exactly in Lebanon in 2018. And in that panel, there was a director from a specific company. There was the owner or the creator of a major event series that happened every year. And he was like, yeah, I fired my secretary because she decided to go have a kid. And the other
available 24 hours at every single time when he wants to call her. And then she got pregnant. I was on that panel and it was the most annoying thing to be on in my life. He literally said, hey, let me be clear. I fired her because after she got pregnant, she started getting sick. And she started getting she got complications in her pregnancy and she needed to rest. So she wasn't there for me at all time, like she used to be. So I had to fire her. And I have to say, women cannot do it when they get pregnant. And he was there as a woman empowering event.
But that's so most of them.
I'm so glad I wasn't there, Salim. I'm so glad I wasn't there. I would have walked off. I don't care. I would have been like, sorry, man, I can't take it.
I think for me the worst part was not him, to be honest with you. The worst part was the director of the other company, where she confirmed him and she said, yes, women have to make decisions about their career and about their lifestyle. And I was like, and this was not a small company, and it's a recorded video. It was not a small company. And for the director to agree, and she was a woman, to agree, I was like, I had to raise my hand. And at that moment, the Arab Women in Computing chairwoman had to jump in, and she was like, I didn't expect that from this panel. But I think it's really unfortunate when women have to put in position where they have to choose. Like they have to choose to be a mother or be something or and also do their careers. Like no, I don't have to choose. I can do everything. So I go back to the point of women graduating from university and not finding enough position. I think that's point. And I'm going to be in a limb, and this is my personal opinion. I strongly believe that unless we make a change, dramatic change, where we say all the companies must have an engineering team in the region. I don't care. You work in the region, you have an engineering team in the region. That will, and then yes, we'll do the 50-60% women as well. And then that will give more opportunity for engineering, for programmer. Right now, the reason the US is advanced, the reason Europe is advanced, is there's more opportunity. When you graduate, you can have more opportunity on engineering. In our region, if you graduate, tell me how many companies have engineering team other than the startup. So there is less opportunity, and therefore you go and you struggle and you fight the bias by man and the bias by the culture and all of that. And of course, after 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, you are getting hit and hit and hit. And then you will say, either I create my own startup or change, but I cannot be like, it's a mental thing. So for me, this is, and again, this is my personal opinion, unless there is a change where we have to force the creation of engineering position at a large scale, things will not change in the region, to be honest with you, because I think once we have that, once we force that, if there are companies that take money and sell stuff, then they have to also create engineering position in the region. It doesn't make sense that you take a lot of money and then you say, no, my engineering team is in another country because it's less costly, or because it's another country because they are better. No, you have to create there. This is just, I might get into trouble because I said that, but that's my opinion.
No, you're. If I could jump in here, Salim, 100% right. And I remember when we were in Girls in Tech. I'm not going to start with the educational system. That needs a 5 billion days of on YouTube, but they actually graduate, and it's so, you just feel so sorry for them, because what they've learned, honestly, they can learn on Udemy. Like, and then and Ryan, like you said, so we had 6 interns at VAV. 2 joined Amazon. 2 are now moved into intermediate developers, and 2 left. One of them a female because she got married. So we invest in the youth because the youth are the future. They're better cost, they're more efficient, they can work 12 hours, they're passionate. And this is a thing that, and when we went and we tried to find female interns, the universities just threw the resumes. What they did actually is they sent it via email in a database to all the startups. It's that email where it goes to spam, no one even sees it. And then they tried a lot, honestly, in Jordan, to pay 150 JDs of their salary. They've tried a lot, but that is not the core of the issue. The core of the issue goes back to the education. When they come up and, they're like, oh, but we had this book, we learned that. So this is heartbreaking. Salim, I'm with you. In Saudi Arabia, they're doing the bottom-up approach. They went to the universities. They started pushing in the universities. They want to advance themselves. And then you can find the software engineers come up. But the biggest barrier was the culture. I saw amazing engineers, amazing from outside Amman. We never worked in Amman. We worked in marginalized areas outside. But, they cannot go out, they're not allowed, they can't, they have to be home at a specific time. They should not work. There was a lot of issue. For once when the pandemic happened, I said, damn it. If we're in a pandemic, work from home, these guys could have all had jobs because they don't need to leave their house. And I think that, so and for Jordan, like in Qatar, I don't see this. There are a lot of females doing masters and 100 things when it comes to AI and the fancy words we love using. I think it's a push from the educational system, plus the government. I think it was Kuwait, where in Kuwait, 10% of the government's treasury money has to go into startups, has to be injected to actually work it. Put a bit of KPIs on adding a few, gender, whatever it is, age group, youth. Again, youth is really important. Youth, especially the young that are coming out now because of the internet. Of course, we lived in a moment where MSN was our only way of talking. But now with the internet, they're learning so much every day. And they're the future. We need to step back when it comes to our time. And people like Zohra, you're a godmother to them. In Tunis, I've been there once only, but imagine if you could go and, they put you as an influencer to go and tell your story. People are gonna do this because of your story. That's it. And this is what
they do. They like parade me around. They're like, look, self-doubt. And I'm like, yeah,
we all have that.
they do.
We all have that every time. For me, thank God, like, I don't convey into the technical world. Of course, I had to learn because I was forced to, because people thought I was, you know, the female who's trying to build something but doesn't know anything. So we're gonna go and do a fake app for her that's a mock-up, but she's gonna think it's code. I was there, I've been there, I've done that. So self-taught, I had to learn. And I remember designing 39 screens for my mobile app when I didn't even know what Photoshop was, because I was mocked at. I was told that, no, she's not gonna know anything. خلاص, يعني, she's gonna go pitch, it's there, it's nice. And I found out 2 days before the pitch, and I actually had to go learn Photoshop thanks to YouTube. Yani, they sucked badly. God, I'm so bad at design, but at least I tried. But the mockery, and that really got me annoyed. And like, you know, you're mocking, like, do you think we're stupid? Like, what do you think? Like, do you think I'm not gonna know this is actually a mock-up? I forgot how we did it on a platform. I'm not, I know what a mock-up is. And that's what urged me to actually learn as much as I can, to Google everything that they tell me every moment and build a case. But yeah, for us, definitely back to the education. Now I'm seeing a lot of amazing youth, female engineers in the incubators, building in hackathons. So that's kind of amazing. I think Jordan supports them a lot. For the youth, our time was different. I hope the next few years would look different for them.
I do have one more thing to add, because I noticed this not too long ago, but it really bothers me. So we're a very multicultural, multi-language team, but you know, if you're going to work with, so most of us speak like 3 languages, some more, and the thing that really bugs me is when you have an engineer who's, you know, who has a lot of potential, women or men, that has a lot of potential, but the language is just not there. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like, there's nothing I can do, because you're gonna have meetings with people who speak in English all day. Like, I can't fix that. So sometimes I'm like, you know what, if I literally, like, in an interview, I'm like, I'm sorry, I see that the English is not there. What I suggest to you is to get that sorted and come back when you have it, because I can't be translating, like, when I'm like, okay, give me a second, just write down, and especially now where I have to type it. So I think I don't know if it's the case really just for Tunisia or for a bunch of countries in our region, but I think at a certain point they took away the focus on languages. They're like, no, everything is fine. So you find these people who are technical, but who either have like very bad, like, I'm sorry, I'm just saying the truth, like very bad kind of communication skills. I can't have, like, if I can't understand what you're saying and you have to explain to me 5 or 6 times, that's probably an issue, you know? So there is that. Soft skills, or as some people call them, power skills, are not taught in school. How to write the CV is not taught in school. So they just send me, like, a lot of the times, during internship times, like, we get, like, I don't know, 500 or 600 people applying for like 10 positions, and I'm flipping through them, like, saw that template before, and I'm just like, please, like. And sometimes I get like these really simple CVs, and I'm like, I don't care about the fluff, because at the end of the day, yes, I like pretty things because I'm a designer, but give me the basics. If you say that you're okay in English, that you're good in English, if I ask you a question, you should be able to at least understand me. But I think the focus on languages has really been taken out, and it really bugs me, because we can't have translators. Like, it's just not feasible to have someone to have to translate. So
I agree with you. I think, to be honest with you, there are so many things, like if we talk about the education, I personally believe that, and it's not just here in our region, even globally, universities are usually 3-5 years behind anyway. So, like, you know, when you talk about TensorFlow, tell me which university in MENA is teaching TensorFlow. 0, maybe 1, at least, like, not in 2018, not in 2019, not in 2020. Maybe now one or two are starting to do that. Flutter, none. Chrome and web development did. So it's because the community can access the latest technology and train them. So that's one aspect. But like, you know, for me, it's the leadership skill, like, you know, like you said, the language, but also the working style and model. It's not women or men. This is why I have been biased to empower more women in the communities, because I have seen it since 2016 when I came back from the US here, is when you give a woman opportunity to lead the community, magic happens. And when you see men, it's about putting like her hands on the power and not letting go. And it's I have stories and stories where they don't even want the woman to be part of the community organizer. And it's like, it's free, you're an organizer. Why you cannot add a woman to be an organizer like you? No, just me, because I created it 5 years ago. But you're a volunteer, you're not getting paid, you're an organizer. So we had to change, and right now our region, like, you know, 70% of the community are student clubs, GTGs, all of that are led by women, and they do amazing because they are dedicated. And I believe if we translate that into like a program where we will give them opportunity to do engineering, we will give them opportunity to do entrepreneurship, then I believe we will be completely in a different stage. And that's why we see you three as a successful women founders in your startup, and there are many, many more. Like today, we announced a new program with the US State Department to train 50 women startup founders, take them like through 5 days of accelerated, sort of like a short version of the Google Accelerator program, because we want to empower more and more women. But in my opinion, we can do all of that. We can fix the education, we can fix the language, we can fix the power scale. But at the end of the day, where is the jobs? Okay, so you train hundreds of thousands and millions, but then what do you tell them? All of them go to consulting, and all of them go to freelance. So where are the jobs? Where are the companies that will hire the 1,000, regardless if it's a man or woman? And maybe I'm a little bit on the side or the extreme in this particular case, but if there are no jobs, okay, you train, then what?
Yeah, but for instance, at the end of the day, for me, this is a personal Zahra opinion, not even a deep opinion. If I have 10 CVs in front of me, and I find that, and you know, like unconsciously, sometimes I'm like, this is a woman, I'm gonna check her CV first. Because sadly in Tunisia, we still, at a certain point, I was like, it's actually, we can actually know if it's a woman or a man. It's not like, in some countries, you like the CV is blanked out. But so I try, and thing is that, I'm sorry to say, sometimes it's like, I only hire the cream of the crop. And if there's a major difference, I'm gonna go with a person who has the most skills. But yeah, there is, in Tunisia, thank God, we do have quite a bit of tech companies and startups and things of the sort. So there are jobs. If you just go to one of the job sites in Tunisia, there are jobs. The issue is either the education is, and again, here in Tunisia, at least private universities are totally cool with actually changing programs. So we're like, hi. We actually did do that with a couple of universities where you just kind of knocked on their door. We were like, hi, let us show you what AI is. And they actually did like an entire course system. And I was like, this is great. I saw their web system courses, and I was like, guys, like this is like 1998 style. Like you need to update. So, and they actually listened. So for us, I think it's different because we do have an ecosystem. We have our studies. I don't know. I mean, I didn't study here, but from what I see, like we're at, I think, 60% women in engineering school or 70%, and a lot of them have, like, we have insane talents. However, sometimes I'm like, just give me the language that goes with it, please. And I think that if that happens, then at least, even if there aren't jobs for everyone, at least it gets more even. Because if there's 80%, in the workforce, if there's 80% men, you will obviously, most of the time, have to pick a guy. Just out of statistics, So if you raise that bar up so that the competences go up, it's always better in any case. And even if opportunities aren't created by the people who already have startups, they will open their own. Like, we have a bunch of accelerators in Tunisia that just work all the time. We have cohorts of 10 or 15 startups in each accelerator every year. And a lot of these are led by women. So, and the thing that kind of wows me every time is just how good their language skills and they go through like boot camps to learn those power skills. And if you can convince me, like if I'm talking to you and you're looking at me straight in the eyes and not just like talking to you looking at the wall behind me or whatever, that is like 1 point for you, So if we can just get those up, it would already make a complete difference, I think. Again, this is just as her opinion. I may be completely wrong.
No, it's a valid point, absolutely. So with that, maybe like last question for everyone in the panel, like which is like if you are a woman at different stages, if you are still studying or like just graduated, like what would be your advice that they focus on to get to the next level? And since we are talking about startup, is like what would be your advice for them to create their startup? There's a question from a couple of questions that I saw from the audience. One talking about that the reality is there are many countries that still have rules against like what women wear or what women can do or cannot do. Unfortunately, it's even written, which is like it is like 2021, but we still are outdated in that area. And there was another question that says, okay, I'm a student, I graduate, all of that. What would be your advice for me to open my own startup?
Rula, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I was on a panel yesterday with 10 university students also asking the same. Your advice, I always say this, 3 advices, and again, I learned this by making mistakes in each and every one, and sometimes not even once. Start fast. If you have an idea, just go validate it. Just don't research the whole world. By the time you finish, the long research, 5 people already launched it. So start fast. If you're passionate, if you like it, you're a risk taker, start. Number 2, people. And again, from the Google Accelerator, this was defined again, the people behind the team, choose wisely who is going to be your team members. My suggestion, don't put a friend as a co-founder. Never works, but again, it's up to you. And number 3 is don't fall in love with your product. When we're very excited and, this is a startup phase, it's not costing us a lot of money. We're in an incubator, we're cool with our MacBooks and we're doing everything. We just fall so much in love with our product that we even forget the customer. We don't even know why we're building it. And this is something that everyone falls in very early stages and sometimes late stages. So as I said, start fast, choose wisely, and don't fall in love with your product. And if I can give the 4th one, don't raise money until you really need it. Not every startup needs 100K from day one. Whatever you can build, you can do with your cohort. Like Zohar said, a lot of cohorts are in the universities, students. Push as much as you can, validate, make your first dollar, and then go for investment.
I absolutely agree on the waiting to get funded. I think that one of the reasons and why we are where we are, where InstaDeep is where it is because we are a bootstrap. Like, we basically start with 2 computers, that's it. Like, and 5,000, 4,000 bucks. I mean, that's, and we never, I hear a lot of horror stories of these startups raising millions. And then after 1 year, they're like, oh, bye-bye, it's gone. And it's because they flew in business class, the entire team. And I'm like, why? Like, I always fly coach. We all fly coach. The only thing where I don't fly coach is from the Germany to the US, because 11 hours and a half, I have a back problem. My back is like, no. But I still don't fly business. But you have, like, when we buy something, it has to make sense for the company to actually grow. And we reinvest constantly. And, you know, one of I always say, and really after this year, it was shown, I am so glad we used our heads and didn't go, you know, tossing money around on everything. We don't throw money at problems. Because during COVID, you know, we had to take care of our people. The people who had desktops didn't have like desks at home or anything of the sort. Or, you know, they had like huge computers, had to get like last minute bunch of laptops to hand out, because we do work with big machines and AI, you know. But thank God we didn't spoil ourselves and then completely destroy the company in that, because a lot of founders do that. And I'm always like, how did you spend 25 millions in a year? Like, how? Just explain it to me. Exactly. Other thing that I always tell, and this is, I tell a lot of women this, is don't care what people think or say about you. The only person you have to please in this world is yourself. If you're happy with what you've done, like, at the end of the day, if someone doesn't like you, that's fine. They're not spending their time at night just, you know, thinking about how to hurt you. They just don't care. You're staying there just thinking about what's something hurtful that someone may have said. At the end of the day, if you're happy with yourself and what you did and what you accomplished, no one's opinion is valid. I'd rather be happy with myself. Like, I'm an insomniac. If I do something even like this wrong, I stop sleeping. But if at the end of the day, if I can sleep comfortably, that means I've done what I had to do. Otherwise, I'm not gonna think about who says what about me. And the other thing is, when you have like, follow your vision. I know a lot of people who kind of started their startups and then they got influenced by their family members or friends or things like that. I'm like, they don't know business. They don't know this or that. Don't just listen to anyone. If you have mentors in business, in tech, okay, I get that. But don't just follow like the coffee dude downstairs who's like, oh, you work in a startup, it's a lot of work and you shouldn't do it. And no, just listen. God gave you a brain. It's for a reason. It's to use it. Listen to your brain. Don't listen to other people. So those are my main three, I think. And yeah, don't work for people. If you go in an interview and people just start asking you personal questions, just don't. You know, I would just leave, to be honest.
Amazing advices. I would add a few things. One, which is, don't start a startup to start a startup. Unless you have a passion, you have a real product, and you have a solution that can actually bring value to the world, don't just go ahead and create a startup just to be an entrepreneur. That's one. Because there's so many solutions and so many like duplicated solutions out there, we don't need more. Two, don't feel the pressure to be an entrepreneur and have a startup. It's okay. Some people choose the path to become an employee and become a senior person. We need those people. Look at us, 3 founders, we're looking for you. We're looking for you, senior female developers. So don't feel the pressure to just go and be an entrepreneur and do the startup thing just because it's the trend. If you really love the coding, if that's what you really enjoy and you're good at, just stay there. We really need you, we're looking for you. And my third, which is in addition to everything that Rola and Zohra said, is if you really have a product and you want to go ahead and do the startup, make sure that you don't only get the right team, but get everything clear from the beginning. because complications can get really ugly and you might lose your love for your product and your passion. On the other side, if you choose not to go into the startup world and you want to launch your career and you're so lost and you have no idea what to do, you're unable to land any training or any job, go ahead and create something and create your own project and put it on GitHub. Now, all companies consider your open source, your code that you're putting online as an equivalent to your experience. Build your GitHub profile. This is what tech people, this is what companies are looking for. Choose a project, go ahead and develop it as if it was an actual client thing, because you want to build experience. Don't just sit there. If you're looking for a job, if you're starting your career, your job should be looking for a job. You should be waking up at 8 a.m., working till 7 p.m., looking for that job or building capabilities to get the next job. Looking for a job, it's not a passive thing where someone will knock on your door and put the job in your lap. You have to look for it with all hands and feet and brain and soul. This is what you need to be doing. Make it your job to find that job. And believe me, if you do that, you will be able to find it. That's it for me.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate all your feedback. And if there is last word from anyone, otherwise, thank you, Zohar. Thank you, Ayan. Thank you, Ola. I look forward to have you in the program. As you know, we're launching the program to help 50 to 70 women in the region in the month of May. I'll be reaching out to you. I know you're already committed to helping mentor and train women, so this is a small start, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much for your dedication, for being an inspiration to a lot of women in the region. Shukran Kthir. Wassalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks so much. Bye. See you soon.